Cubs fans, what's going on? Listen, I'm going to tell you guys right now, as excited as we are about the fact that the Chicago Cubs have signed Alex Bregman and have traded for Edwin Cabrera, listen, throughout the season, we understand injuries are going to happen. But the Chicago Cubs are actually taking a huge risk that has a lot of Cubs fans worried. Welcome in. You guys already know what it is. It is your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. I'm your host, Mike Jones. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Chicago Cubs Central, your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you again. All right. So with that being said, y'all, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Make sure that you guys let your thoughts be known in the comment section with today's topics. We're going to do a little bit of a facelift with the podcast. Going to do some new things that you guys saw. I already got some new designs out there and some new things coming for the podcast. So just stay tuned for all of that. But still, even with all the different new designs and new things that you'll see on the podcast, we still will keep the same dope content coming for you each and every week. Appreciate you guys so much again for tuning in. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Now, that being said, listen, the Chicago Cubs did the unthinkable in a week. Not only did they go out and trade someone that a lot of Cubs fans did not think they were going to trade at all in Owen Casey for Edwin Cabrera, but then they turned around and dropped a bombshell on us last Sunday and told us that they are signing Alex Bregman. That signing was made official this past week. Alex Bregman also debuted at CubsCon that just finished up this past weekend. Hey, shout out in the comment section if you went to CubsCon. Let me know if you did. Also post a picture or something like that, and tell me how CubsCon went for you guys. I really want to go to CubsCon. I really want to be there. I planned on being there this year, but with me and my wife just having a baby, I can't leave her just yet, you know. So I had to put off my maiden voyage to CubsCon. However, I am looking forward to next year being at CubsCon with everybody else. And like I said, hopefully meeting some of you that watch this podcast out there also. Now, with that being said, Alex Bregman was brought out at CubsCon, obviously. And, you know, Chicago Cubs fans got a chance to really get a sense of what this guy brings to the table as a leader, as somebody that has reportedly already reached out to players to find out what players are doing, what they've been doing, what they've been working on during the summer. So you can talk to them about it. Somebody who's a team player, somebody that cares about the teammates around them, somebody that has wanted to be a Chicago Cub and is excited to be a Chicago Cub. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about him. I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see what he brings to the table for this Chicago Cubs team and just how he's going to be able to help this team come together and win big in 2026. Now, with that being said, in order to win big in 2026, the Chicago Cubs are going to have to do something that they have not been able to do, and some of these players that they have signed haven't been able to do. The Chicago Cubs, believe it or not, y'all, have taken a big, huge risk that could go horribly wrong for this team, and it has Cubs fans worried. The Cubs signed two players that both have a legitimate injury history. And so today's episode is not one that is like super jovial, like I always am. But it's just facing the reality. And like I told you guys on this podcast, I'm going to keep it honest with you guys 110%. That's why you come here to your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs to not only talk about the good times, but also talk about the bad times or the things that potentially could happen. So you have to understand what the Chicago Cubs just traded for and what the Chicago Cubs signed for. The Chicago Cubs traded for someone in Edwin Cabrera. We'll start with him first. He does have a pretty lengthy injury history. Now in 2025 with the Marlins, he had right middle finger blister. That isn't anything to write home about, but he also did have a right elbow sprain later in the 2025 campaign. He was placed on the 15-day IL with that right elbow sprain after feeling tightness and discomfort in his throwing arm. 2024, he had right shoulder impingement. earlier in the season and landed him on the 15 DL and then the 60-day injured list to a right shoulder impingement, delaying his ability to pitch that year before eventually returning mid-season for the Marlins. After that, I mean, earlier than that, he had the right elbow tendonitis in 22, mid mild ankle sprain in 2022, and then a left shoulder impingement in 2023. He also has recurring issues with blisters and tendonitis and sprains and things like that. So overall, Cabrera has shown a promise as a starting pitcher. His injury history includes repeated arm and shoulder issues and reoccurring blisters, which have interrupted his ability to maintain a long, uninterrupted workload, which, again, the Chicago Cubs are going to need this from him. So the Cubs traded prospects, including Owen Casey, to the Miami Marlins to acquire Cabrera, signaling they see him as an impact starter and a key piece of the 2026 rotation. He set a career highs in 2025, making 26 starts and throwing 137 and 2/3 innings with a strong 3.53 ERA while striking out 150 batters. Like I said, so he is somebody that we know the Chicago Cubs value highly, but Cabrera's injury history is real and is consistent, and it's something the Cubs may have to manage carefully. So Cabrera has had multiple injured list stints with elbow problems, including tendonitis and a right elbow sprain in late 2025. So he also missed time due to shoulder impingements, both of which can disrupt the starter's rhythm and their availability. So while he stayed relatively healthy through 26 starts last year, the pattern suggests that keeping him consistently available over a 162 game schedule might be challenging without careful workload and health management. So how do the Chicago Cubs, 2026 Chicago Cubs rotation, how do they keep Edward Cabrera healthy? Well, according to Bruce Levine, as well as other Cubs insiders, the Chicago Cubs are looking at doing a 6-man rotation once Justin Steele is ready. You also then have Javier Assad. You also have Colin Ray. Both these guys will be available to do spot starts if Cabrera needs a rest or if Cabrera needs some time off or something like that. You'll have these guys to be able to come in until you get Justin Steele back. But it does look like the Chicago Cubs are pointing in the direction of doing a six-man rotation for pitching this season because they have so many health concerns. Think about this, guys. On the list of Chicago Cubs starting pitchers, last year, Matthew Boyd is the only one that did not see, well, Matthew Boyd and Colin Ray are the only two that did not see injury stints. Outside of that, Cade Horton was injured last year. Shohei Managa was injured last year. Jameson Taillon was injured last year. These guys all had injury issues last season. So you look at that and you say to yourself, obviously, you know Justin Steele was injured. So you look at that and you say to yourself, man, the Chicago Cubs really have to be careful this season. One of the best availabilities for these pitchers is going to be their availability. Them being able to be counted on every 6th day to be able to come out and to pitch a strong game for the Chicago Cubs. That's why the Chicago Cubs traded for Cabrera. And according to Jed Hoyer during CubsCon, he's been somebody that's been on their radar for a very, very long time. He is a pitcher that the Chicago Cubs have wanted for a while. So they finally got him. They have him in-house. They have him under team control for 3 seasons. And then they probably will try to extend him if he stays healthy and is able to be that ace starter that they believe he can be. Pairing him, a young Cabrera with a young Cade Horton, that's a 1-2 combo punch that is going to do damage in the Major League Baseball scene. So again, I look forward to seeing what those two can do. But the Chicago Cubs do have other options out there should Cabrera need to miss a start or we need somebody for a spot start or something like that. So, I mean, again, the Chicago Cubs just have options out there. They have to be careful, though, with him because they need to make sure that he is healthy for the long haul. We want him healthy for majority of the season. And then speaking of health, also, you got to look at Alex Bregman. The Chicago Cubs traded for Alex I'm sorry, the Chicago Cubs signed Alex Bregman um last week, and he is now one of the faces of the Chicago Cubs. He will be here for 5 years. He has a no trade clause in his contract, and he is here with the Chicago Cubs. He will be here with the Chicago Cubs for 5 seasons. He will be a captain for this team, no doubt about it. He is already somebody that is coming in, that is trying to better himself and better this team, and somebody that's looking to do things for the Chicago Cubs and help the Chicago Cubs win championships. And I'm excited to see what he actually does with this team. So, but again, Alex Bregman is also somebody that has an injury history. Alex Bregman suffered a right quad strain on May 23rd of 2025 while rounding first base, forcing him out of the lineup and onto the injury list. The strain, the strain was described as severe and similar to a quad injury he had in 2021, resulting in a lengthy absence. He was out roughly 43 games before returning in July. He missed significant time despite being one of Boston's top hitters prior to the injury. He also had elbow bone chip and surgery in 2024. In 2024, he also had right elbow stiffness and swelling, which I'm sure led to the elbow bone chip and things like that. He broke his finger in the 2022 World Series. He had quad injury in 2021. So durability for Bregman is something to be questioned also, which is also why I think the Chicago Cubs are going to hold on to Matt Shaw, because, you know, you need somebody like Matt Shaw that you can depend on to come out there and be a piece for you at third base. And so I do not foresee the Chicago Cubs trading Matt Shaw. I would be highly shocked if Chicago Cubs trade Matt Shaw. Now, Matt Shaw will get time out in the outfield, and he also will get time in the infield. He's going to be a special platoon player for the Chicago Cubs in the 2026 season. Now, if the Cubs can't come to an agreement with Nico Horner, then you will see him slide back into the second base position if Nico Horner signs elsewhere in the winter of 2026. So we'll just have to see what happens with that. But again, you're going to see Matt Shaw get platooning time at second base, at shortstop, probably. You'll also see, or they'll move Nico to shortstop. They'll put Matt Shaw at second base. You'll have Alex Bregman at third, or you'll see Matt Shaw some days play third. You'll also see Matt Shaw some days play left field. You'll see him play center field some days, probably for the Chicago Cubs. He's going to get time at all these different spots. Why? Because the Chicago Cubs want to give guys rest. They want to keep guys healthy. And Alex Bregman is going to be one of the numero uno guys that they need to keep healthy. They need, like I said, the Chicago Cubs, when they go on those 10-day, 12-day stretches of game after game after game, because due to rainouts or different issues, there's going to come a time where you're going to have to make sure that you have Bregman and those guys healthy, but you want to have pieces around them to make sure that these guys can get rest. Again, his health matters so much because he's a middle of the order bat. He's an everyday third baseman. He's a veteran stabilizer for a young roster. And he is somebody that you just want to make sure that you have in those big moments. Again, durability directly impacts lineup consistency, defensive alignment, and offensive production over a 162 game season. So honestly, I think the Chicago Cubs should look at load management becoming a part of the strategy. Planned rest days, more DH appearances, conservative return timelines if anything pops up. Again, he may not play 155, 160 games for the Chicago Cubs this season, and that's okay. A realistic target for Alex Bregman this coming season is to play between 130 and 145 games if things go well. But Chicago must continue to build a roster that can survive stretches without him, avoid being overly dependent on him for run production, and ensure depth at third base infield isn't just replacement level. So that's a big part of what the Chicago Cubs messed up with Kyle Tucker. It almost feels like when Kyle Tucker went out last year with injury, the Chicago Cubs lost a lot of their mojo and guys slumped all at the same time. You cannot have that this season. Injuries are going to happen in the MLB season. We know that. We understand that. But You as an organization have to try to guard around that as much as possible. But listen, I want to know you guys' thoughts on this. The Chicago Cubs took a big risk in signing Alex Bregman to that contract. Chicago Cubs took an even bigger risk signing Edward Cabrera. Now, again, if this leads to a lengthy run into, the National League Championship Series where they're going up against the Dodgers or something like that, then great. Now, if this leads to the Chicago Cubs not even being able to make the playoffs or struggling, with just another wild card appearance because they could not, stay healthy, well, then you have some concerns here. But I want to know you guys' thoughts. What are you guys' thoughts? Are you worried? Are you concerned about the health of Alex Bregman, about the health of Edward Cabrera, about the health of the Cubs in general? Are we thinking that the Cubs primarily, hopefully, will stay healthy this season? I would love to see Kate Horton stay off the injured list. I would love to see, Nico Horner stay healthy, Michael Busch stay healthy, definitely PCA stay healthy, guys like that. You want those guys to be healthy. Health is wealth in the 2026 season for the Chicago Cubs. It's going to take all of us at the end of the day in order to beat those damn Dodgers, especially with Kyle Tucker signing there. But listen, I appreciate you guys so much for tuning into this episode. Make sure that you go ahead and like, share, subscribe, comment below, leave your thoughts. I appreciate you. Until next time, go Cubs, go. Peace.
Thank you for watching another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, the #1 spot for all Chicago Cubs content. Remember to like, share, subscribe for more Cubs content.